to present Ambedkar, particularly with reference to on caste and its consequences for the national development, and in particular Indians, is a very difficult proposition. Of course, when he was active social reformer, most of his views were accepted by the society, by the Indians, particularly people from Hindu society, but some were also criticized, not accepted by others. But as you know, over a period of time, in the post-independence period, during the last 65 years particularly, his views became more popular and more relevant. So in that context, I was also one of those social scientists who believes even today the Ambedkar views are relevant, given the stage and structure, particularly the prevailing social and economic conditions in the society. This is the paper of economics discredation, which is introduced only in this semester. Let me try to focus on mostly on the aspects relating to the caste and how it discriminates people, what are its economic implications, something like that. So my lecture usually is drawn from his main work, 1936, Annihilation of Caste. Before that, there was also a paper presented by Ambedkar in Columbia as a student of PhD in 1916, that is Castes in India, its genesis, mechanism and development. A little I also take from that paper. Of course, here and there I also use his other writings. As you know, so far there are about 22 volumes have been published by Maharashtra government. These volumes contain his writings and his speeches. And now I am using mostly this first volume. Now, in India, particularly in later 80s, after the birth of Indian National Congress. Before that, let me also mention, actually this Annihilation of Caste is not originally planned as a book. It was a speech prepared by Ambedkar, which is supposed to be delivered in his presidential address at Lahore. The organization was called as Jat Pat Todak Mandal, and Jat Pat Todak Mandal was mainly working for the removal of caste, and they have invited Ambedkar to be presiding over this by the annual conference in Lahore and deliver his address on this caste. But unfortunately, let me also mention that point. Unfortunately, it could not be delivered in the form of a speech, because in that particular proposed speech, what was prepared by Ambedkar, this organization found that some of the things what he mentioned, particularly when he talked of the point that you may not stay here, that is one word. You may not stay here means you may not live in this religion, stay in this religion. And also when he used the destruction of, but they were telling that he used the word destruction of the religion. But what he has used is exactly in that paper, if you read, the destruction of the Shastras on which this notion of caste is based. Of course, this caste is a foundation for this Hindu religion. That is the word he has used. So they wrote him back that these words may cause some kind of a problem and there is a lot of opposition. and please withdraw these votes so that the rest can be delivered in the form of your conference address. But Ambedkar said, see, once you invited me as a president, you should give me the required freedom to deliver my own opinion, my own views. I cannot alter just for the sake of a honor that you are going to give me as a conference president. For me, my self-respect is more important. Whatever I believe, particularly for the annihilation of the caste, removal of the caste, for which you are also working, I have presented there. Sorry, I cannot delete those votes. As a result, ultimately, they could not agree for that, and he did not agree to the votes. Ultimately, that conference did not take place. And then Ambedkar thought that these are the views which I am supposed to share with the public, as that address was not delivered. Let me put it in the form of a book. And that book, without any change, that a prepared lecture came in the form of a book. Within 1 to 2 months, in thousands, the first print was over, and again there was a demand for the second print, and that was also over in few months. That was the demand for that work. Because out of the many works written by Ambedkar, particularly this work was treated as a very important work, particularly from the point of the problems that were being faced by the Indian society. Now let me come to the point. See, as I was mentioning in later, that is somewhere in 1890, something like that, in 90s, in latter part of the last decade or last 2-3 decades of that particular century, there was a kind of a movement which was opposing the British rule particularly, and a National Congress was born. When the National Congress was born, actually there were two wings of this National Congress. One was emphasizing on the political reform, and another was emphasizing on the social reform. These two wings were treated as the two sides of a coin, like that. But the thing is, for a period of time, actually, the people who believed that the political reform should precede social reform, they increased in number. Their number became larger. The supporters of this particular view, that a political reform should precede social reform, became larger. And as a result, the number that were attending these social reform conferences, which was called as social conference, was declining. That is how slowly its importance has come down over a period of time. And Ambedkar, in this respect, particularly he quotes the speech delivered by W.C. Banerjee, the President of National Congress of 8th session held at Allahabad. Banerjee clearly says that, in his own words, he says that he is questioning the public who gathered in that session in order to answer the questions raised by the people who believed in social reform. First, that are we not fit for freedom because our girls marry at earlier age? Are we not fit for freedom because our children, or particularly our women, could not go to Oxford or Cambridge for education? Like that, he was putting various questions in order to say that these things, social reform. Or he was also putting another important question at that time. This was the basic problem: are we not fit for freedom because there is a widowhood in our society? In order to say that the political reform does not have much bearing, or social reform does not have much bearing with the political reform, therefore let us emphasize on political reform, which is our main concern in attaining the independence. We can think of the social reform aspects later. And even social reformers also at that time Again, there are two kinds of reforms in that social reform. One was that let us first reform our own family, individual family. Individual family, when I say that, I mean to say that let us attend the reforms relating to the child marriage and the sati problem. Sati, burning a widow woman along with the deceased husband. Similarly, some of these problems and solving the problems, early marriage, gold marriage, something like that. This is one kind of a reform, mostly emphasizing on the issues related to at a family level. Other one relating to the organization of the society. Organization of the society, when I say that, organization of society, particularly the evils of the caste. The evils of the caste. In Andhra Pradesh also, actually there was a lot of social reform movement. Some of the reformers, they have led it. But you see, the point I try to say is, these people, but this section also never argued that there is a need for annihilation of castes. They were talking of the caste evils, removal of the caste evils, they were discussing about the intercaste marriages, interdining, something like that. At the society's level, we should promote these things. But at the same time, these reformers never thought that there is a need for annihilation of the caste. Even sometimes, although they thought, they did not have the necessary courage to say that we have to annihilate the caste to the rest of the society. That was the situation. So, under these circumstances, Ambedkar was saying, at that time prevailing situation, particularly, as you know, the caste system, which is a graded system, which is an unequal system, castes were arranged in a hierarchical manner, as you know, and the lowest castes have also suffered from a social stigma, which is an untouchability problem. So in various parts of the country, including Gujarat, where Mahatma Gandhi comes from, including Gujarat, how these underprivileged sections, like now we call them as Dadis, mostly Ambedkar was using a word called depressed classes at the time. How these people were suffering from the tyranny of this upper caste or whatever it may be, or upper strata. When such problems were there, for example, these lower sections, these deprived classes, they were not allowed to enter into the main streets of the village, to take the water from the main wells of the village, and they were put to a lot of all kinds of problems. They didn't have any kind of social intercourse with the rest of the main society, and they were denied all kinds of civil rights. So under such circumstances, he was questioning, can we proceed without reforming the society first? So therefore, Ambedkar was of the opinion that social change, social reform should precede the political reform. On the other hand, later on, National Congress, which is under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi, they have given priority to the political reform. Intention is first to attain the independence, the rest we can attain later. So political reform should precede the social reform or social change, that is their slogan. On the other hand, there is another group, socialist group in this country, particularly who are emphasizing on the Marxian paradigm of development, Marxian thought. They strongly believe, on the other hand, that let there be economic change. And in this particular paradigm, their argument is, it is the economic inequality which causes all kinds of evils. Even they believed that some of these social problems can also be resolved once there is an economic change particularly. And therefore, there is a need for bringing the necessary change in the system, socio-economic system, whereby what they call it as proletariat dictatorship, whatever it may be. So some kind of inequality would be established, and they were emphasizing on the economic change. They strongly believe that economic change should precede these two. These are the three important groups. Now, but as I told you, Ambedkar firmly believed that, because even he put some questions to these socialists, that you see, in this country, of course, economic power definitely is one of the important reasons for the domination of one class by another class. Definitely it is one of the important reasons. But you see here, this may be one of the reasons. There are also many other reasons. For example, in India, particularly during that period, a penniless fakir or a penniless sannyasi hold a lot of power over the people who do not have even a penny. What do you say for this? That means, see, it is not only, his argument was, it is not only simply economic, there are some other important reasons which could be part of the religion. Therefore, his argument was, there is a need for first reforming the religion, that is what we are calling as a social reform. And he also quotes that, one, for example, in India, somewhere else also. In India, you see, historical examples that Chandragupta, before Chandragupta came to the power, the Buddha's reform took place, religious reform. Similarly, in Maharashtra, under the leadership of Shivaji, before that political reform took place, there was a kind of a religious reform led by the saints in that state. Like that, he was giving various examples how religious or a social reform was preceding this political reform he was giving. So therefore, he was saying that there is a need for social reform first. Regarding the economic reform also, he was telling that given this kind of a social structure in this country, particularly based on this caste, when the billions of the people are suffering on account of the caste inequality, caste oppression, whatever it may be, how can you ignore this kind of a problem? Even if you ignore today, after the formation of again communism or whatever it may be, socialism after some times, you will be compelled to take care of this. Therefore, you cannot ignore this particular basic problem of the society. That is what he was suggesting at that time, these left groups also, socialists. Now, his point is actually, in this context, why we should annihilate caste. If we go back a little into details from that paper, that is Caste in India and its genesis. His main argument was, particularly he explains how there was a sati sagamana in this country, similarly how there was a child marriage in this country, how there is a forced widowhood in this country, and which became a part of the caste system itself. His main argument is, these groups, particularly within the caste system, some socially upper groups like the Brahmins, something like that, in order to maintain that endogamy character of the caste. Endogamy is the important characteristic feature of the caste. In order to maintain that endogamy characteristic feature of caste, there is a need for a kind of an equality between the different sexes, man and woman. There should be an equal number from both the sides. Otherwise, in a particular caste, For every person you should find a corresponding, for every man you should find a corresponding woman. Suppose then in such a case, suppose when a husband dies, what about this lady? I mean, what about this woman? Naturally, when there is no person within the community, she has to go for outside the community, which is not permissible as per the caste rules at that time. So naturally, in order to maintain that equality, obviously, one method that was found was this sati. Let her also be buried along with the deceased wife, so that we can maintain equality within that caste. Similarly, in case of a man also, when his wife died, what about him? But the society was not that cruel to the man, given the status of a man and the importance of the man in the society. Man was seen as a more important from the point of view of society because of the different reasons. He is more productive, number one, at the same time. He also required for the protection of the society, something like or that particular community, caste, whatever it may be. But at the same time, therefore one way they were finding was that you can go for the marriage with a girl who is not at the age of marriage. This was also found out, so that the marriage takes place within that system, within that caste. There will be an endogamy in that way. Of course, in case of woman, there is also a forced widowhood. If she is not buried along with his deceased husband, other way is forced widowhood. Forced widowhood means that she should remain like that widow forever. But there is also a danger. Sometimes it may lead to, although it is a soft measure compared to killing her with the husband, although it is a soft measure, but at that time there was also a fear that it may lead to some kind of an immoral activity, something like that. This may be the case with men and also women. But that is how sati was preferred by this particular society, which is particular of maintaining that endogamy. That is how these two things came into being. And this was mainly practiced by this. Other point I want to say is Ambedkar's point of view that originally these were a kind of classes. Originally these were classes like Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. 4 classes. But over a period of time, they turned into a kind of caste groups. Because when this top caste made itself aloof from the rest, and very strictly following these all kinds of rituals, because greater the degree of rituals you follow, greater the status of that particular caste. So they started doing like this. And as a result, he also says caste is nothing but a kind of an enclosed class. Caste is nothing but an enclosed class. As a result, it has happened that these people were following all these rituals very strictly, and naturally in the society, the rest of the classes started imitating the top strata in order to enhance their own status also, social status also. Because higher the degree of these kind of rituals which are followed, these kind of things, and naturally their status is also higher. That is the belief at that time. That is what was propagated by these things, by the shastras or whatever it may be. So in the process, other classes also slowly themselves converted into these castes. Okay, and over a period of time, these again castes converted themselves, divided themselves into a large number of castes, something like that he was telling. That is how briefly he gives that origin. The intention of the caste, main point of the basis of the caste is to maintain the endogamy. That is the principle. Now, but caste is a reality. At that time, there were also people who argue, like Arya Samaja people, argue that it should be a Varna system. Let us go for a Varna system rather than a caste system. And what is this Varna system? They retain these 4 names. For example, Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. But their status, their occupation, nothing to do with the birth, but it depends upon the guna. Guna, I mean to say that their ability, their skill, their intellectual power, whatever it may be. Accordingly, you can classify the people into different classes. Nothing to do with the birth. But these names they were retaining. Therefore, Ambedkar was a critic of this particular movement was also. That when you are retaining, why should we call somebody a warrior is a warrior? A trader or a peasant is a peasant. There is no name for giving again retaining the old titles, something like that. Ambedkar was a critic of this, and that system cannot also be maintained. Why it cannot be maintained? That this kind of an Arya Samaj proposal of following that kind of a Varna system, whereby you don't give any importance to the birth, only to his skills or to his abilities, something like that. Because you see, in the existing system, for example, the problem with that was, if somebody who acquired those skills, intellectual abilities, something like that, he is supposed to be moved upwards, because in the Western countries there is a class system where people can move from one class to another without any difficulty. A poor class man can move without any restriction to the upper class, once he acquires the necessary wealth and all those things. That kind of a liberty, that kind of a mobility is there. But here is a system which is very rigid. There is no mobility at all. There was no upward mobility at all, although there was some degree of horizontal mobility. Horizontal mobility means within that caste occupation one can gain more skills, whereas he can't acquire the different skills are meant for the higher caste or something like that. And I will come back to that point. See, under the gunas, you see, Ambedkar, because he was criticizing on the line that a person, when he acquires all kinds of abilities, he is supposed to be shifted to the, say, for example, a Brahmin class. Okay, but at the same time, if somebody who is born in that community, who does not have any kind of an intellectual abilities, say, for example, who does not have any kind of an education, who does not have any kind of a knowledge, he is shifted to the lower class, somewhere where he is fit into. There is a lot of difficulty in this process. So, therefore, this is not a workable solution, Ambedkar says. However, I will come to the main point. See, now, when you take up this caste system, present reality, it is a rigid system. Most important point is, it is hierarchical. What kind of hierarchy? It is a graded hierarchy. The hierarchy is a graded hierarchy. Graded means one caste is kept above the other. One caste is kept above the other. The top caste in this system is, as you know, that Brahmin caste. It does not mean that there are no, again, different sections within the Brahmin. There are number of, just like in Shudras, as thousands of castes are there are number of divisions within the Brahmins also. So, and another Kshatriya below them. What is this graded inequality? The top person, okay, the second person, below second person there is a third person. That is Vaishya. And below him there is a fourth person. That is the Shudra. Within this Varna classification, original caste classification, these depressed classes, actually these X untouchables were not there in the old system. They were formed. There is a theory for that, who are untouchables, one has to read to understand that actually how this caste was formed. To Ambedkar views, one has to understand that. I am not going into that. So here graded inequality means